Hello, and welcome to the Sedgwick Podcast. I am Kimberly George, Sedgwick's Global Chief Brand Officer and your host. Please like, share, and subscribe as it ensures you are updated when a new episode drops, and it will also help our channel. Today's topic is RIMS Riskworld 2025, the leading risk management conference coming to Chicago's McCormick Place Conference Center May 4th through the 7th. With me today is Brad Krauss, a good friend and Sedgwick colleague. Welcome to the podcast, Brad.
Hi, Kimberly. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, although an introduction may not be necessary. There's probably some of our listeners that don't know your background.
Well, thanks. Yes, as longtime friends and colleagues, it's great to be here and to remind myself what I do. But yes, I am currently the Executive Vice President of Enterprise Growth for Sedgwick, which really encompasses the growth leadership and sales leadership associated with several of our core businesses, the most notable and significant being what we refer to as the casualty, as well as care management, managed care business segments that sort of flow together and are certainly going to be a big part of the engagement at RIMS. It also includes a couple of specialty areas and some things that we've encompassed here in the last couple of years through acquisitions, which includes our product recall segment, as well as the public entity and federal government contracting segment. So it's very exciting. It's probably about half of the business when we look at it in terms of its rough scope. So it's really exciting for me, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, to go from being our leading growth colleague to now being the leader of the group is pretty phenomenal. So congratulations on that role. RIMS stands for the Risk Management Society and is celebrating its 75th year during the conference. Their theme this year is Engage Today, Embrace Tomorrow. The event will host over 11,000 attendees from 70 countries, and there'll be over 300 exhibitors. We hope you'll stop by Sedgwick's booth at number 625 and check out our whole new brand. I hope you love our new look and feel. It's fresh and modern. I'm super happy with it. Okay, let's dive in. Got some questions for you, Brad.
Alrighty, let's go.
Okay. One of the common conversations leading up to and also at RIMS is how many RIMS have you attended and what's your favorite RIMS city? Do you want to weigh in?
Well, sure. That's always kind of a loaded question, right? So this is going to be, I had to think about it a little bit, the 24th RIMS that I will be attending consecutively with Sedgwick. I did have a life prior to Sedgwick, but I attended maybe a couple times. So maybe it puts me over 25, but it's certainly been an amazing run. And to see it, honestly, through all those years, the irony of this being in Chicago, it's where I'm from. It's how we know each other and work together, obviously, I think for a long time, if those don't know. Being Chicago-based colleagues, going back to those days when we started. So to me, it's about coming home in some respects. The other irony of it to me, and it's also personally exciting, is this will be the first time it's back in Chicago since I believe it was the second year that I was at Sedgwick. So the second RIMS that I actually attended as a colleague for Sedgwick was when it was last in Chicago. Now, I know it was supposed to potentially have come back in between, but with some of the interruptions. So I hate to call anything a favorite, but certainly I'm going to be very biased that it's great to be in your hometown where it's a little bit of a home field advantage, so to speak, when you know where things are, you know how to get around. I'm really excited about the venues, about the town. Anytime it's in a huge metropolitan sort of commerce center like Chicago is, I think it always brings a different level of energy. So, I certainly love going to all the different locations, but this year will be kind of special.
I agree. If I were asked, I think my favorite city's probably San Diego, but I couldn't be happier to have it in Chicago this year. It's Chicago's so vibrant and such a great time of year, the first week of May to be here. And fingers crossed, we're done with the snow. So I'm looking forward to it as well. All right. Thank you for answering that. I wasn't sure what you'd say because I know there's a
No,
few other cities
it's funny
you
you
love.
say San Diego too, because of course we all, who doesn't love San Diego, right?
Oh,
So,
so
and
true.
of course Chicago, we get our lovely weather. Wait a day, it'll change, so it's very possible that will. But hey, we all know what it's going to be like. It's going to be a lot of running around inside buildings, outside buildings, and hopefully Mother Nature will cooperate a little bit, given the time of year, which but the city should really shine well. I think there's going to be. I think that the attendance is going to be really good. To me, it usually is anytime you get the proximity of a centrally based location, a huge hub. When I think about global colleagues, it certainly is very efficient in terms of getting that attendance, which I
Yeah.
think more and more is becoming really important for not just for RIMS, but for all of our business. So, I think and we usually I also think see some uptick of, the filter, if you will, that surrounds RIMS as the conference, but also attendance and just the general what it brings into a given city and location when RIMS comes to town. I think Chicago in particular here is probably going to get its fair share of pull for that similar kind of lift.
That's fantastic. We oftentimes say at Sedgwick that RIMS is not only our favorite week of the year, but also just so incredibly important to our business. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we try to certainly make sure we never de-emphasize anything, but I think there's no question that for us historically, RIMS really is our largest single trading partner event as a business. And I think it's a credit to RIMS as well that it's evolved and expanded when I mentioned the global components, but when you think about the elements that RIMS encompasses, and you talk about whether it's lines of business and certainly how that aligns to what we do. With the more things that we've done, RIMS has become a real hub for not just what some people might say is the traditional property casualty US segment. It now encompasses so much more. So when we talk about managed care, when we talk about global, we talk about our adjacencies and businesses that support. Um, it's really become the main center point for us to engage with the widest view of the market. So to us, it always informs, certainly for the foundation of what Sedgwick is, but more and more, I think it informs and gets us connected out into all of the constituents that are now equally important to us, where they may not have been there 5, 10, 15 years ago. So to me, it's just increased in importance and sort of its visibility. It's also, of course, where I think we've had the most success in terms of the organization level, if you will, around not just the conference itself and how it does it, but how we have approached as an organization to make sure that we have all the right resources. We can bring them into one spot. The constituencies of our businesses, our partners, our customers, no matter what it is, that we're all there together. And it's the one time that you really have that moment to kind of be informed across the full spectrum. That's very hard today, certainly, because everybody's moving all the time. There's a lot happening in the world. And to say, oh, you're going to get everybody in one spot and sort of compare notes, that's difficult unless you have an event like this. So I think it's incredibly important. And it probably covers now close to 80% of our business mix across the entire organization. So that level of engagement and the ability for us to do that in one spot has taken on that much more importance.
Yeah, so well said. It's like old home week to some extent, where we see our colleagues, but meeting new friends, spending time with customers, prospects, our trading partners. It's just fantastic. I feel like there's a ton of great energy coming into this year as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it is. And the other thing that's interesting is the timing is key as well, right? It's always been in sort of the first quarter, second quarter of the year. So of course, for most businesses, it's you're sort of in the first half. It sets the tone for what we're seeing. And of course, right now in particular, it's a very interesting time, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of volatility from an economic perspective. We all know and that of course brings about a lot of considerations for not just us, but same thing in terms of the constituents, our customers, our partners, everyone that's involved in this whole ecosystem. So aside from being sort of early in the year and giving us the opportunity to have that conversation and compare notes and see everybody now, with what's been happening in the world, certainly, and with the changes here, certainly in the last 6 months plus, give or take, that makes a lot of impact in terms of it's giving us a unique opportunity to kind of be here in front of it and start to exchange comparisons. Hey, what are you seeing? What's it doing to your business? How are you preparing for it? If we know there's a lot of uncertainty, and just even understanding where their head is. Of course, nobody can necessarily predict what
Yeah.
next month will look like or next year, but it certainly, I think, is also benefiting from the timing in relation to what's happening just in the general economic marketplace as well.
I do think those will be hot topics, and truly being able to collaborate around those. What's happening around the world with the global headwinds, our business challenges in US. It'll be great opportunity to try and strategize jointly around those. You always have a good pulse on the market. So I appreciate you sharing that for sure. Anything specific you want to share around Sedgwick's products, services, or things that maybe give a little sneak peek about what we'll be talking about at RIMS?
Well, I mean, certainly the other, aside from those economic conditions that we're all certainly interested in talking about, of course, we all know that the two letters that are on everybody's mind from an AI perspective, and what does it mean from a technology impact, as well as what it does to the business. And it's really exciting. I think we're obviously, like everybody out there, really leaning into it in terms of, okay, what can this really do to support our business? What can it do to support our colleagues, which is still the most important component of this. And we all recognize that it's sort of unknown, but again, I personally think it's exciting. I think most do, because the interesting thing to me is, if you look at businesses, manufacturing things, you talk about the evolutions from a technology and development perspective. They've kind of lived through that. You think about professional services, which is probably the bigger umbrella for our business. I'm not sure we've ever seen anything like it, right?
Mhm.
And now it's real, and it's happening quickly. So that obviously has a huge focus for us in terms of what we're going to do. So we're certainly going to be talking about that. That people component, though, still a really big thing. The time frame that we've gone from COVID and talking about engagement and making sure that our colleagues, and in turn our customers, can feel sort of that same connection that I think everyone feels. We lost a little bit of that coming out of it, return to office, and really trying to get the support level back to our colleagues, and then ultimately back to the customers. I think you're going to hear a lot about that. We know that that's happening with our customers, with our partners, et cetera, but we're seeing it as well. And frankly, I think the team is really excited about it, because it feels like the right time. It feels like we're ready to do this. We've had a very strong approach and organization around how we're going to try to do it. Not a one size fits all. Try to make sure that we're being considerate of, hey, it has changed a little bit. We don't want to necessarily do a broad stroke. So those are just two items that are
Yeah.
certainly very broad. And then for us as a business, we've just really tried to get back to the focus of what's important to the customer, what's driving their needs, their challenges. We want to understand it as much as we can. We kind of get back to our basics of, well, we want to be your primary solution partner. What challenges are you facing? Tell us about it because we want to help solve for that. And that's how we ultimately have the relationships we do. So it's a very exciting time. And this time next year, when we talk about the next rims, it'll be an interesting look back to see where we've gone from where we first were talking about it here today, because I can assure you, and it will
Yeah.
be very different, and I believe.
It is changing faster than ever, for sure. We're looking forward to sponsoring the Wellness ZENter this year and offering 6 sessions focused on developing careers, empowering the next generation, thriving through the unexpected, and more. You can find the ZENter in the exhibit hall. You'll hear from Kathy Tazik, our managing director over learning and development, Max Kuntz, chief claims officer, and Leah Cooper, who many of you know as Sedgwick's chief digital officer. Don't miss the therapy dogs in the ZENter. They're always a big hit. Sedgwick will have 5 sessions during RIMS, including our own global risk manager, Dave Eric, former RIMS president. And on Wednesday, Sedgwick hosts the RIMS closing party. It's at 7 p.m. at the Goose Island Salt Shed Pub. The event's open to all RIMS attendees. For first timers, Brad, as well as those of us who've gone to RIMS for decades, it can be pretty overwhelming. Do you have a secret sauce or something to share in how you accomplish everything you set out to do?
I think after 24, I'm still learning how to do it, and I'll steal the quote from a longtime friend and leader of ours. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Was something that Bob Peterson used to tell us all the time, and it is 100% true. Pace is everything. So it is. The thing about it is, it's exciting, and I know everyone probably feels the same way. You feel like you arrive on Sunday and then we're all heading out of there Thursday, and it's like a blink. It
Yeah.
goes so quickly. I will say we're very fortunate again between the way we set up. I also do believe the way that RIMS organizes itself in terms of the locations and ultimately how everything is scheduled out. It does lend itself very well, I think, for efficiency so that people they're trying to be in a lot of places at one time. And of course, we all know you can only do so much of it. But I think, we've managed to certainly try to facilitate that in our meeting space, which I strongly encourage anybody who has an opportunity to talk with us to come by, because we try to keep that dialed down a little bit, much more comfortable. You get a little break, get off your feet. At the same time, you can find us anywhere. You can find us in the hall. You've talked about some of the different events. Um, we'll be out about in the city, and of course, that's where a lot of it happens anyway. Where we all get to bump into each other, and frankly, I think that organic component is what makes it somewhat lighter anyway, because you don't feel like you're just constantly on a hard schedule of we've got to get through X number of meetings, which those there are a lot of those, and yes, it will be somewhat exhausting. But yeah, it really is, and all the other usual suspects of hydrate often,
Yeah.
try to
Good
go to
luck.
bed at a decent hour. I'm of an age now that's way more important to me than it was maybe when I went to my first rims. So lessons you learn, but I think everyone's going to have a great week, and I'm really looking forward to it. And like I said, I think the town's going to be it's going to be great to participate with it, and it usually shows really well in these types
Yeah,
of things.
that's awesome. For those of you that may be first timers, RIMS does hold a first timers event. I also encourage you to check out the sessions. There are a lot and they will be fantastic. So, plotting that out in advance where you want to be, in relationship to meetings you might have, I think is fantastic. RIMS also does a really great job in bringing in the next gen. Risk management universities around the country are bringing in students. There's sessions specifically for them. And if talent attraction for early career risk managers and insurance leaders is important to you, please seek out those sessions as well. Spencer Education Foundation will have their scholarship recipients there. So we look forward to seeing you at RIMS Riskworld 2025. Brad, you've been a great guest. Any final thoughts?
No, just same thing. We're really looking forward to being there. Absolutely encourage you to come see us, and we will certainly be out looking for everyone the same way. So as I said, I'm excited for being back in my hometown and showing it off a little, and I know we'll definitely eat well on top of it. So um, should be a great week. Thanks for having me, Kimberly. It's really the best week of the year for us as a business, and for my role and profession. It's kind of the Super Bowl every year in a way. So really exciting, and thanks again, and look forward to seeing everybody there.
Thanks for tuning in to today's podcast. Be sure and hit the like button on your way out. Until next time, take care.